One of the questions I always had was, why doesn't the Quran mention atheist? The Quran mentions, other religious groups. The Quran mentions other religious groups, like the Quran mentions, Jews, Christians, pagans, etc., but it never mentions atheist. And I always wondered, why is that? Why does the Quran mention, other religious groups like Jews, Christians, pagans, polytheists, etc., but it doesn't mention anything about, it doesn't mention anything about atheists. And I think the reason why the Quran doesn't mention anything about atheists, or doesn't mention anything about, atheistic views or whatever, is because I think atheists are actually polytheists, right? So, but the Quran always condemns, or the Quran always promises the polytheists and the pagans eternal damnation in hell. And the reason why I think the Quran equates atheist with polytheist is because, in the end of the day, everybody worships something. Everybody has something on the top of their priority list. So an atheist will be worshiping something, whether they admit it or not. The atheist could be worshiping themselves. They could always be working on themselves. The atheist could be worshiping another person, but they don't know it. Like a man could be devoted to his wife. A wife could be devoted to her husband. A man could be devoted to his girlfriend. A woman could be devoted to her boyfriend, etc., etc. Or it could be their own autonomy. Or an atheist could be worshiping money, even though they don't admit it, but they could always be going after money. That means they worship money. An atheist could be worshiping sex, or always going after sex. Because we do have sex addiction, etc., etc. Or they could be addicted to power. Trying to get as much power as possible, whether it's political power or some kind of power. Basically everybody's worshiping something. Either they're worshiping money, or they're worshiping sex, or they're worshiping power, or they have some kind of addiction, whether they have a sex addiction, or a shopping addiction, or a compulsory shopping addiction, or a drug addiction, or whatever. The point is, everybody's worshiping something. So even the most atheistic person who doesn't believe in God and the supernatural, etc., even they are worshiping something besides God. And I think the Quran equates that with polytheism or paganism, because they're worshiping something that's created. And so polytheism doesn't, or paganism doesn't always mean worshiping idols. It could mean worshiping other things besides God. And we see that the disbelievers, and the Quran tells us the disbelievers are wrongdoers in the Quran chapter 2 verse 254. And that the disbelievers hate and want to ruin Muslims in the Quran chapter 3 verse 118. And when you look at atheists are, most of the ex-Muslims out there are atheists, and they want to keep going after Muslims, and they want to like, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, they want to make other Muslims leave Islam. So the Quran tells us that, the worst of creatures, or the worst of people, are actually the Jews, Christians, and the pagans in the Quran chapter 98 verse 6. Because if you look at it, these people, not because of their beliefs, because these people are actually wrongdoers. In the Quran chapter 2 verse 254 tells us the disbelievers are the wrongdoers, and that would include Jews, Christians, and pagans, etc. So so we see in the Quran, in the Quran chapter 4 verse 1, in the Quran chapter 4 verse 101, it tells us that disbelievers are open enemies to Muslims, etc., etc. So basically, we have to look out, or we have to avoid like the atheists, because the Quran does say these people are our enemies, and that they are the worst of creatures. Because if you look at the problems, not just in the world, but if you look at the problems in America, most of these problems really arise because of secularism and atheism. Because an atheist cannot justify morality. They don't know they can't justify what is right or wrong. There are atheists who are good people, I will admit that, but they can't justify why not rape, murder, steal, get what you want by any means, etc., etc. Jews, Christians, and Muslims have some kind of guidance that justifies their morality, whether it comes from the Old Testament, New Testament, or the Quran. An atheist doesn't have this, right? So an atheist can't justify morality. So if you look at the problems in America, etc., most of the problems really arise because of liberalism and secularism, which is causing more and more people are becoming, liberal or secular. Or atheism is on the rise. So that's why we have to be we have to be cautious of these people. One of the prophecies of the Prophet Muhammad was towards the end of time, religious people or ignorance or being taken away of religious knowledge will prevail, and we see this happening as the rise of secularism and atheism is becoming more and more prominent. So this is just my 2 cents on the whole thing. So I think the reason why the Quran doesn't mention atheist is because the atheists are actually polytheists or pagans. They just don't realize it yet, because an atheist is worshiping something, whether it's money, sex, or power. They're worshiping one of those things, right? But these things eventually fade away. The only thing that will last for all eternity is God. And you're either with God in the afterlife or you're with Satan in hell. So you got to make that choice. Stay tuned. The final videos are coming up.